So next presentation is Yoshihiro Sakoda from Japan. Please.
Thank you very much. So I will introduce our research activity and mainly for the cross-reactivity of the serum, vaccinated cattle serum will cross-react to the BVD type 3 HoBi. So as Joe and also the last speaker already mentioned, BVD genetically classified type 1 and type 2 and also now the HoBi type 3. And this virus type 3, so HoBi-like virus first reported 2004 and isolated from fetal bovine sera in South America and cattle and buffaloes from South America and Asia and Europe. And the causative agent of poor growth and respiratory disasters, so same like BVD type 1, type 2, and reproductive disasters and PI. And was one of the risk agents of the contamination into the veterinary vaccines, as last speaker mentioned. And antigenically, classified genetically, and BVD 1 and 2 and 3 are genetically classified and also antigenically distinct. And in the report, limited cross-reactivity in the rabbit hyperimmune sera against BVD type 1 and type 2. And my question is cross-reactive in cattle with immunized with BVDV vaccines. I will explain in the next slide. And we have, in Japan, there are no detection of the BVD type 3 HoBi-like virus, and the vaccination is against for the type 1 and type 2. So our surveillance is firstly the detection of type 3, and the answer is no. And we also detected the cross-reactivities of the antibodies against vaccinated cattle. And so first activity, and the second is a cross-reaction in the cattle immunized with BVD vaccine distributed in Japan. Before my result, I will introduce briefly about the situation in Hokkaido, this island. Next speaker, so Dr. Yoshida also explained in detail with the epidemiological informations. So this is our virus libraries since 2001. So usually, 50 to 100 PI cattle were detected from this Hokkaido. And in our university, we did genetic characterization. The majority of the virus isolate is BVD1B, same like other countries. And the other is 1A and 1C and type 2. And so far, there are no detection of the BVD type 3, so the HoBi-like viruses. So based on this situation in Japan, so our government approved the modified live vaccine and also the killed vaccine for the cattle farmers. And unfortunately, the vaccine companies still produce only the type 1 vaccine, but companies started to develop the type 1, type 2 live attenuated vaccine and now available. In addition to the modified live vaccine, so the killed vaccine, type 1A, 2A, or 1B, 2A vaccine is now available in Japan. Okay, so first experiment, this is a laboratory experiment using experimentally infected cattle serum. So that is a single antiserum by the infection in the laboratory. And we checked the cross-reactivities of these antiserum and BVD type 1, type 2, and type 3. So second one is a field study. So we collected the cattle serum from Japan, and with vaccination history unknown and non-vaccination history against BVD. and we detect the BVDV by the Stefan Buiatrics, so pestivirus primers, and Bauermann's, so the HoBi-specific primers, and move to the virus isolation. The cross-neutralization assays against the BVD1, 2, and HoBi-like viruses also conducted for these serum after the inactivation of the serum by 56 degrees per minute. So, okay, this is a laboratory experiment of the cross-reactivity of the BVD viruses and also the antisera prepared in the laboratory. So generally, so the BVDV1 virus specifically react to the antiserum against the BVD type 1, and not so far against type 2 and HoBi. Same like that. So the BVD type 2 virus is react to the BVD type 2, but not so against the 1 and also the HoBi. And this is same for the HoBi-like virus. The antiserum against HoBi react to the HoBi-like virus. And this virus, the cross-reactivity of this virus for the BVD type 1 and type 2 antisera is quite low. This is a general understanding using a laboratory sample. Okay, and we will move to the result of our field serum sample. This is the result of the PCR screening test conducting in our sample. And during our surveillance of until 2017, we couldn't detect any BVD1, 2, and also the HoBi-like viruses. As I mentioned and indicated, and in the local veterinary service, they detected the BVD1 and 2, but still no detection in the HoBi-like viruses, even for other groups' work in Japan. So our conclusion, based on our result and also other laboratories' result, we could not get any evidence of the prevalence of the BVD type 3, so the HoBi-like virus in Japan. So next, we move to the retrospective study and the antibody monitoring that the prevalence of BVD type 3, because we couldn't detect the virus directly. So this is a serum sample without vaccination history, so the random sampling. And this is the summary of the average of the sample of the 26 and 23 of each district in this Hokkaido. And as you can see, so the average of the serum neutralization titer against BVD type 1 is high, and also type 2. And interestingly, the titer against the HoBi-like is much more higher than our laboratory cross-neutralization test. So same result, similar. So type 1 is like this titer, and against type 2 is this. And interestingly, the titer against BVD type 3 is relatively higher. So that is our question. And when we focused individual cattle, some of the cattle have almost same titer as BVD type 1 or 2. But not all sample is almost equal as BVD type 1 or BVD type 2, but BVD type 3 titer is not highest. So the neutralizing antibody titers against HoBi-like virus ranged from negative, less than detection limit, and the highest one is more than 4,000. And the titer is equal to or less than against the BVD type 1 or type 2. So we concluded that the cross-reactivity of the BVD type 1 or type 2 infection or vaccination. But the question is why the field sample cross-react so much compared with the laboratory serums, cattle serum. That is our question. So we move to the serum neutralization test again, they're using the cattle serum with vaccination history. As I mentioned, in Japan, we can use still the monovalent vaccine, BVD type 1 vaccine, and from the serum vaccinated with monovalent vaccine, of course, this is type 1 vaccine, so neutralization titer against type 1 is highest, and the cross-reactivity is very low. But when we focus on the bivalent vaccine, modified live and killed vaccine, and multiple killed vaccine vaccinations, so the antibody titers against HoBi-like virus is relatively higher compared with the monovalent vaccines. So these results suggest that and the titers against the HoBi-like virus was statistically higher in the BVD type 1, type 2 vaccination groups. So that is our conclusion from our result. So we don't know why. So the field vaccinated or field infected cattle serum induce a cross-reactive activity against BVD type 3, but that is our evidence in our study. So I will summarize my presentation. And first, the cattle in Japan induced neutralizing antibodies against the HoBi-like virus, but no evidence of the HoBi-like virus isolation in the field. And higher antibody titers were demonstrated in cattle vaccinated with BVD type 1 and type 2 bivalent vaccine. And relatively higher titers of neutralizing antibody against HoBi-like viruses induced when the cattle were infected naturally or vaccinated with BVD type 1, type 2 without the infection with HoBi-like virus. And this report is, similar evidence is already reported from United States, and this must be support that data. So as a diagnostic purpose, the laboratory should consider the possible cross-reaction against the HoBi-like virus by the extent BVDV in the field. As I mentioned in Japan, so the BVD type 1, type 2 vaccine available, and of course, we should stop the invasion of the HoBi-like virus into Japan, but continuous vaccination with BVD type 1 and type 2, because bivalent vaccine induces a cross-reactive antibody against HoBi. So that may contribute for the control of the HoBi-like virus in Japan. Thank you very much for your attention.